Welcome to the Three Generations podcast, where three friends from different generations and diverse walks of life come together to explore, debate, and celebrate the world around us. Meet Jess, the Millennial of the group. Tech-savvy and socially conscious, Jess offers a fresh perspective and a passion for innovation and change. Then there's me, Julia. I'm the Gen Xer of the group, known for my independent spirit and pragmatic approach to life. I bring experience and a no-nonsense attitude to our discussions. And finally, Marie, our boomer, who adds wisdom and a wealth of life experience. Her perspectives are shaped by decades of witnessing societal shifts and cultural evolutions. Together, we navigate through a variety of topics, offering unique viewpoints from our distinct generational backgrounds. While we may not always see eye to eye, our love for each other and commitment to healthy discourse keeps us united. So sit back, relax, and get ready to dive into the dynamic and ever-evolving dialogue of three generations. We promise to challenge your thinking, broaden your horizons, and maybe even make you laugh along the way. So let's get started.
Woo woo! All right. Yes, I got to use the button. Okay, I've been dying to do that.
Button happy. So today I have a question for you guys. I have a topic I've been wanting to discuss here, and that's talking about handling the different beauty standards that we have today. I find it really hard. So I'm going to open this up, and I'd just love to get your opinion about what you think. But I'm, as you know, from originally born in Brazil. And in Brazil, actually, there's different, this is always generally speaking, but different cultural beauty standards. What that culture finds beautiful is actually different than the United States. So I had quite a shock when I moved to the States. So in Brazil, for example, the ideal beauty standard is darker skin. So people are out in tanned a lot. There's actually a lot more people that are of mixed race, so that helps. So the darker your skin, the more beautiful that is considered. And it's someone with maybe an hourglass shape, smaller bust, bigger hips and butt. That's definitely the standard of beauty. Then I come to the States, and generally speaking, I don't want anybody to get mad at me, but a lot more people get breast augmentations here, where I was used to a culture that would get breast reduction surgeries, for example. Mm-hmm. And then the standard here, it seems to be, generally speaking, for you to be very slim, skinny, and so not the larger hips and buttocks, standard. So I think so there's the cultural thing. And then I think we live in a dynamic, different time where we do a lot of life and interacting with others through social media. And because I come from where there was a time where there was no social media, I'm kind of half in and out. My daughter is born into the situation where she's only known social media. But what I see from social media is a lot of filters, a lot of editing, a lot of presenting maybe a reality that is enhanced. But if you don't go in with your mindset looking at that, you think that that's the standard, that's the truth, the reality. And you can't help when you see something to be able to compare. So I think we live in kind of a tricky time. And I just wanted to get your opinions about that.
Yeah. You know what, Jules, I love how you just broke down what it was for you. Like from the standard where you came from and stuff like that. Marie, what was the breakdown for you? Like, for the most of the chunk of your life, like what beauty standards were considered?
Well, you talk about social media, but we had magazines.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Magazines upon magazines. And the same thing, it was always very thin, and makeup and big boobs, the whole thing, and I kind of chuckled a little bit when Jules brought this subject up because being the age that I am now, I'm not shaving my legs or my underarms anymore.
Right.
Excuse the pun, but I ain't having no sex. It ain't necessary.
Right. Yeah. Hey,
but
each their own.
The thing of it is what people don't realize is that women never did do that until the 30s.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
What do you mean shave?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
And even for a long time after that, Europe still didn't do it. Just
Yeah.
American women did it when all the flappers came in
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And again, just like Jules says, it was promoted.
Yeah.
Somebody somewhere got the idea, put it in a beauty magazine.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when, women were still pretty modest with the longer dresses or
Right,
skirts or
right.
whatever. And then we went to above the knees. And so somebody along the line said, let's make some money. And so we had the magazine.
Yeah.
So that's always been promoted, just in different ways.
Right. So dive a little bit deeper in for me, though, because I think me and Jules can say makeup today is a multi-billion-dollar industry now, right? But what did makeup look like in the magazines?
Well, first of all, we didn't have the choices
Right.
that you have today. Okay. But basically, it was your foundations, but we still didn't have the choices that you have today. Don't forget, women, even at home, the majority of women wore makeup.
At home?
Because they saw it in a magazine. We just spoke about this, right up through the 50s, women were at home, the majority.
Right.
I'm not speaking for all women, but
Right.
the majority. So it was nothing you went to bed every night with your hair in rollers, and so you did your hair every morning, you put your makeup on every morning. It was a routine.
Right.
And the makeup that was available was in your drugstores. It didn't even get into the, like other places.
Right.
You had your perfume areas and stuff like that, but your makeup really came through drugstores. And then, they started to make money, and then everybody had it. But we never had the choices that you guys have today.
Yeah. Yeah. Makeup and beauty standards, so I grew up in the States. I grew up in upstate New York, and I was born in 1990, right? So I feel like I got a mix of it, because when I got to my 20s is really when and maybe people have differing opinions. Maybe it's just when I started really paying attention to it. But that's when the beauty industry exploded and really changed beauty standards. And I think it goes along the lines of, retail and stuff like that. But at the same time, too, the way that it's changed, because like you said, you'd go to your drugstore and women wore foundation and powder, right? Today, the amount of stuff that can go into a routine for, a female who, like you said, magazines. So now we have social media, right? And we have people making money, making buku bucks off of social media. You know what I mean? And having followers and getting likes and comments and making money off of, their subscribers and that jazz. But I remember when I first started really getting into makeup, because I didn't really start wearing makeup until after I graduated high school was when I really started wearing makeup. And it's the world that you can get into. One of the first makeup brands that I purchased was a brand called Bare Minerals.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
I do too.
And that they had their own store at Carousel Mall. But they had their own store. You know what I mean? I remember it being so expensive, and honestly, with the bills that I had and the money that I had coming in, I would still pay that money to get that makeup, right? And it was more than just foundation. It's you have, you have a whole routine that you have to do before you even get your makeup on there. And it's absolutely insane today, because it's just, so I thought it was a lot, right? Because I love doing eyeshadows, and I don't know if you guys have both seen me, because I'll do some all these crazy colors with my eyeshadow, and I'll make sure it color coordinates with whatever outfit I'm wearing to that day. I have fun with it. To me, it's a little bit of an artistic expression too. But the amount that can go into it with a skincare routine and stuff like that, because I remember growing up, I had a bottle of Clearasil on the shelf. You know what I mean? And that was it. You get in the shower, you do your thing. I wash my face with Clearasil, I get out, and then you put the makeup on, right? And that was it. And now it's totally insane, the routine that you can do. And I actually bought into it once, because I was like, hey, this, come on, look at
a
this.
lot of money.
Yeah, but it turned into face wash, and then it turned into toner, and then it turned into serum, and then it turned into this serum, and then it turned into this cream, and then it turned into this. And then you've got to put on a prep for your makeup, and then you can do your makeup. But then you also have these 3 different things of makeup, and then you can put your contour on, and then you can do your blush, and then you can do this. And like, you can literally spend with the routines that they're calling the, social norm nowadays. You can spend up to 2 hours just doing that routine. And it's crazy from, where it was when I started to where it is now. And I'm going to be totally blunt. And a lot of people are going to be like, that cray. And, I probably spent 30 minutes just doing eyeshadow before. You know what I mean? Just getting the colors and mix matching and everything like that. I mean, it's been a hot minute since I've done that because I worked as an electrician for 4 years because, they ain't looking at, I'm not trying to match my eyeshadow color with my Carhartt. You know what I mean? But it's one of those things that makes you really stop. Because here was something where a pin dropped for me over last weekend, because it's bleeding into more than just, hey, I want to look cool today. You know what I mean? Hey, I like color coordinating my outfit and stuff like that. It's bleeding into a foundation of who you are. And I don't feel good unless I look this way. I was walking into Target and a mom and a little girl were walking behind me, right? And I didn't know how old she was, but I could tell she was young. And the mom's pushing the cart and the little girl's next to her, and I catch the back end of the conversation. She goes, so then she puts on a serum and she does a moisturizer. So I was wondering if I could get this serum today. And the mom goes, you're 9 years old. You don't need a serum. And I was like, ha, you know what I mean? Like, but at the same time I go, like you said, afterwards I started walking, I go, that little girl's 9 and she's asking her mom for a serum. So now what is this turning into? Like, did this turn into just something as simple as, like you said, Marie, like, we saw it in a magazine? I feel like back then too, a lot of women would like to keep up that image because, like you said, they'd meet together for coffee and whatever. They keep up that image, keep it up, for their husband. They just had different standards back then. But today, it's truly a pressure that's being felt. What kind of pressure do you think is being put into this for a little girl to be walking up saying, well, I need a serum, a 9-year-old? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you guys catching out of that?
Well, I have an 11-year-old, so that's something on my forefront. Not only am I having an experience, but then I'm also just thinking about ways to protect my daughter,
right?
And what she's thinking, because she's right at that formative stage, that awkward phase with growing. Some people are more developed than others. You're coming into yourself. You're shedding that little kid mode, but you're not quite a teenager, and it can be very confusing. So I just try to watch, like for the choice that I've made in my household, is I just limit her social media exposure, because it's confusing even for me.
Yeah.
But for her, that's all she's known. At least I've had my foot on the other camp, that there was maybe less of that, or there was a choice. And with social media, you're constantly thrust into it. The fact is that there are people that you wouldn't have known it, like maybe some time ago, that you could make a living as an influencer, and all that you do is create content and videos of you putting on different makeup looks. Like that's your job, is to do your makeup every day as a video, and you talk people into, this is the brush I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, and that's your job. You mentioned bare minerals, right? And then contouring, completely different the trends, right? So bare minerals are more like, it's just to enhance your looks a little bit. It's very light, supposed to keep a more natural look. Right. Whereas contouring, which is a world that I know of, but I don't know. Like I'm not that deep into makeup personally myself. It's so confusing because the contouring, you're actually at the end, when you're done, you don't even really look like yourself. You look like a very enhanced version of yourself. But if you take a look at your bare face and then where you end up, you look completely different, because with contouring, you can alter. It's an illusion. Right. So you can at the end of the day make it look like you have a much smaller nose than you actually do, and different things like
way
that.
Higher cheekbones,
way
smaller
higher
jawline.
Yeah. the works, right?
Right.
You look like a completely different person. And what does that do to your psyche that you feel like you need to do that to look a particular way? Or if you're going on a date with someone, like this guy
Right.
thinks you look a certain way because he's only seen you a certain way.
Yes.
And then like, that's not really you, boo. It's
Right.
it's really confusing. And then from from perspective as a parent, as a little girl, so from my little girl, say that she keeps seeing girls that look a particular way with
Right.
not just the contouring, but then the filters or whatever that they put
Yeah.
on, and she is gonna fall short of that standard. I mean,
Right.
she's the most beautiful girl in the world, in my opinion. But
Right.
but for her, like coming into this age and going like, these people look absolutely flawless,
Right.
and what does that do for her? Because I think even just looking, we don't try to, or as confident as we are when we look at other people, there is a part of our brain that does a comparison,
Yes.
Yeah.
and you want to feel beautiful and special and all of that. It's a very perilous time.
Well, the thing that is too is don't forget when it all started and stuff. It was the same thing. We as women were not the only ones influenced. Men were influenced. They saw the magazines. They were like, "Oh my gosh! Like, look at this woman. She's beautiful." And you talk about the big turnarounds, and ours came. You talk about influencers, but we had them in our day. It was just that we had them in our home. I can't think of the name of them now. You got a pink car if you
Mary Kay.
There you go, Mary Kay. So we had influencers actually, because we didn't have social media then, actually came to the home. That's what they did. That's how they made their money. They would come in and do makeup, and we'd have makeup parties.
Yeah.
And
Tupperware parties.
Yeah, Tupperware parties. I sold it. I
Oh,
made good
yeah,
money.
girl.
But so they were still influencers, but really what happened was, my personal opinion, it influenced men more than women, and then women had to come up to the standard that the men were setting for them.
Wow.
I think that's true.
Wow.
I find that's true.
Because it goes back to your own self-preservation. Like, let's be honest, even in marriage, we're going somewhere, if we're going out, or if we have a date and we say to a friend, "How do I look?
Yeah.
How do I look? Does this make me look fat? How's this dress look? Do you
Right.
think it's too short? Am I showing too much?" It's all questions
Right.
that we're, where's our, what am I trying to say here, Drew? Where's our confidence in ourselves? I didn't have too much of that problem. I was brought up by really strong women, but I could see, even though I lived with my grandmother, my mom and I for a lot, so my aunts and uncles are like sisters and brothers to me, I can see where it affected them more than it did me.
Yeah.
Just because of who I am. I mean, we all grew up in the same house, but some of them, like even my aunt today, and she's in her 80s, or my mother, never would go out of the house without makeup. My mother.
Oh, yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
She has come up alongside of me and said, "You need to go change. You need to do that. You're not going with me looking like that."
Because she didn't want to be seen with you because of the way you looked. So like I said earlier, I didn't start really wearing makeup until I was like 17, 18. Up until recently, like I'm going to be totally vulnerable. Up until a year ago, I probably would never leave the house without makeup on. Like I had to wear makeup every single day when I left the house because I have genetic dark circles, and people notice them. And and there's, there's nothing I can really do about it. It's just my heritage. It's just something that I just gained. And it took me a long time to be comfortable in my own skin because I grew up, and even like my teachers would be like, "Did you get enough sleep last night?" And I'd be like, yeah, I got plenty of sleep. You know what I mean? And then there's been times where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to wear makeup today. I'm running late. I used to work for an oil change company. And I remember one day when I didn't wear makeup, one of my bosses came up to me. He's like, "Are you okay? Are you feeling okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm not wearing makeup." He's like, you know what I mean? And I just walked away. I'm not going to make it any more awkward than it is. And then a while ago, the same thing happened. I went to a trip to Costa Rica with Marie, And, you know, this was a missions trip, right? So I didn't pack makeup like Marie's like, yo, pack light. You know, so I packed like the tiniest suitcase, and I'm in a room with 5 girls that packed a suitcase that, you know, you would have thought they were moving their entire life to Costa Rica, right? But I didn't bring any makeup with me, and I was like, dude, I am. And I was tired, right? But somebody was like, I can see the dark circles around your eyes, Jess. You must be really tired. And I was like, nah, dude, that's genetic. And he was like, oh my God. And I was like, dude, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? But it took me up until a year ago to feel comfortable and feel confident and to just, I know it sounds cliche to just not give a crap what anybody thought. Do you know what I'm saying? Like to not give a crap. And now I probably wear makeup like once, twice a week now. You know what I mean?
But that's the thing too. You mentioned like you enjoyed putting on, you know, eyeshadow, and I think like
did.
that's happy for you. Well,
Yeah.
you did. That's nice. Like when
Yeah.
it's something like
Yes.
you enjoy and you described it as expressing
Yeah.
yourself and being artistic. That's fine. I think
Right.
it's when it crosses the line where you feel like your worth depends on how the paint on your face.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how you're going to be perceived, it can be very dangerous.
Yes. it
And
can.
also, it's like who's setting these? I know people are making money, obviously, from skincare products and
Yeah.
making a living off of makeup and makeup lines, right? But who's setting these standards, which we've seen change like every decade?
I think they are, though. I mean, stop and think about it. Marie said it was in magazines, right? So
Yeah, but what I'm saying, like for example, we've seen the trend. Okay, like I think it was at like early '90s or something like that. I remember like the pencil thin eyebrow
Oh,
was
yes.
all the
Oh, yes.
rave.
thank God that went out of style.
To the point where you like maybe you shave or wax and then
Oh,
draw
yeah.
them back in so
Oh,
that
yes.
it'd be thin, right? And now
Yep.
it's like thick, but and it's like, okay, well, who sets that standard? If you're born with like full eyebrow, then like at the moment in time in the culture, you've got to change that about yourself. What if you have freckles? Like I've seen that where it's like freckles. Like I mean, what if you're born with them? Then what?
Yes.
You feel you're less than because right now like freckles are not in.
Well, no, they actually make makeup stencils where you can put fake freckles in
they do,
now.
but
Well-
even so, like, is that right to do?
Right.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Let's be honest. It was run by men, okay, not by women. But now I think, just like we were talking about with the freckles and stuff, women are starting to get into this field, and they're pulling back to the natural, where the big businesses, Maybelline and all of them, you know, they're in it for the money.
Yeah.
So let's change this fashion so we can introduce a new product.
Yeah.
You know, let's be honest, it all comes down to money.
Yeah.
But now, you know, you have women stepping forward, coming into these businesses and saying, wait a minute. Because you have to remember, when I was in the workforce, we had to wear a dress, a skirt,
Oh yes.
stockings, high heels,
Heels.
and makeup every day.
Mm.
Okay.
It was a
Every-
standard to wear
it-
makeup.
That was the standard.
Wow.
And even in the workforce then, you didn't have like really short hair. Your hair was long. We had all these things that were put through magazines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that was the expectations of employers, which 99% were men.
Right.
So again, you know, easily they're, I love my man, okay, but they are easily influenced. So you just show them a picture and go, wow,
Plant the
she's
seed.
beautiful. Okay, yes, we need to do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, but so when I retired, I took my watch off. I also took my makeup off and got a haircut. I was like,
Ooh.
yep, those days are done. You have not ever seen me with long hair,
No, I never have.
No.
you know.
Who knew that your shortcut was actually an act of defiance?
Yeah. She's like anarchist to the core.
Just like my braid is. But yeah, I could almost set on my hair. That's how long my hair was.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was the day where even though you do have all these makeup things today, you have lots of options. Really honestly do. You can be yourself.
Yeah.
And again, Julia, that comes down to the women that are in your daughter's life to tell her she is beautiful every day, just the way she is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I see Miles' little girl, Lila Mae, And I say to her every time I see her, "You're beautiful."
Mm-hmm.
And she's a baby, but she hears you. And that's the influence, because then they, regardless of what they see, what they read, they have that person behind them saying to them, "You're beautiful."
You just reminded me. So there is I want to say like a scientific experiment that they did. I want to say Dove. Yes. Okay, thank you. So they did an experiment where they literally put two plants in like these glass little enclosures, I guess you could say, and they did a ton of recordings. And one recording was like you were just saying, Marie, "You're beautiful, you're gorgeous, you are bright, you're a light, you're this," like just showering with compliments, right? And then the other one was like all these insults, like "You're ugly, this and that," like all these insults. And they put each of them in those boxes, and they put those recordings on an endless loop. One was all positive reinforcement, and the other one was all negative reinforcement, and the plants got the same exact care. And these are plants, right?
But a living
thing. The one that was getting all the compliments was flourishing, growing, absolutely beautiful. To our listeners, if you get a chance, just Google that, YouTube it, look up like Dove experiment, because this plant is flourishing, it's perfect. And then the other one that had the negative comments was dying. Like withering, falling apart. So what is happening in today's standards when people are getting that negative reinforcement of letting that make them? You know what I mean?
And if I can share, I don't think it's just social media. I'll give you my lived experience. It's just funny because I'm a parent, so I'm like, oh my God, the extra responsibility. But when we moved to the States, like I said, there was a different beauty standard, right? I was a tween, so I was in those formative years. For the first few years, you're really not. You're coming into and your body's changing a lot, so you're already kind of like at a vulnerable stage. So my dad, I remember him saying, he was joking around, but he doesn't realize the impact of, and he said it more than once, but he doesn't realize the impact of his words. So we moved here, and he's like, "Well, you're never gonna marry an American because you're not shaped the way that the Americans like."
Yes.
I'm serious. I think he was joking. I think he was like just, because then I was just starting to like boys, and it was just like something flippant that he said.
Right.
But then I actually really believed him. This is my dad, who I've trusted for a long time, and I was catching on to what he was saying, and even what I was seeing on TV. Women, the women that were on there they looked exactly what he said. Okay, then this culture likes blonde, thin, big. That's not me.
Right.
I'm not shaped like that. And I really believe I'm like, wow, I'm not going to have an American boyfriend who's going to like me, because I'm not that way. So now my daughter's right in that age range that I was in. And I do tell her that, but she needs to believe that. And I think, but part of what I have to do, because it's hard we're having this conversation. We're all adults here.
Right.
The kids are, different. They're just coming into that.
Yes.
So I felt like I've had to, in my mama bear mode, really just be proactive about it, and like actually limiting some of the things that she can see or is exposed to, because it's just hard enough as it is. I can't have her be exposed to all these different messages that are coming in from marketing and other people, and then still expect her to most of the time distinguish and feel
between
good about
right
herself.
And wrong.
That
or
is your
what's
job.
good and bad.
That is your job, regardless of what it pertains to. That is your job. You should be seeing what she's seeing, and limit to what you feel as a parent would influence her into the wrong direction. That is your job. I mean, even me growing up with my grandmother and my mother, the influence that they gave me, because they were both strong women, was, you can do anything you want to do. All you got to do is work hard, but you can do it. There's nothing to hold you back.
And we need that message, again and again.
Absolutely.
We really do.
Because you do run into people, just like school with bullies. And, I was very small growing up, but I was tough. You did not want to mess with me.
I don't want to mess with you today.
I was going to say, I would never get that impression from you, Marie. I never would have thought
You
that.
know, but that whole attitude came from them encouraging me of who I was.
Right.
You know, and again, I think, Julia, it comes back to our family. Our family is the biggest influence. I lived in a small town where my dad, my biological father, would cross the street if I was walking down. So, you know, they had to input that into me
Right.
of who you are. Just because this person has made this decision in their life,
Right.
that doesn't fall on you.
Right.
That responsibility doesn't fall on you. So the encouragement was always there. You can do anything. You can do anything. You're smart. You're this. And so the same thing applies. Even in today's time, I am with you 100%. You continue to tell her how beautiful it is, but it is your job to allow her to see or not to see. Period.
And you know, from my to your point, so then I have a different perspective too, because my mom, like some of the women that you've mentioned, her value or what was normal for her was my mom would always be in full face makeup, going to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm. Same.
You know, no, she
Same.
would not be going to the grocery store in sweats.
Yeah.
But definitely full face makeup, hair done, and all that. That's where she grew up. My mom put a lot of emphasis and value on her outward beauty,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was beyond just looking good for yourself. There was a value there, and I've seen her struggle as she's coming in, as she's aging and coming into a
Yes.
certain age. You know, things sag and don't look as good, and she's really struggling with that because the value was here, but now the value is depreciating whether you like it or not, and sometimes no amount of
Yes.
makeup can do. And so you can I can see where that's horrible. Then because your self-worth is tied to something you have no
Yes.
control over,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? And then also then it becomes like where maybe you make some choices to have to go through more drastic measure as far as plastic surgery or whatever
Yeah.
for the wrong reason because you're trying to raise that
Whoa.
that self-worth. That's completely different.
Well,
I'm not against plastic surgery, by the way, if you're doing it for the correct reasons.
Right. Right.
It's a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah.
Oh, it sure is.
Well, to touch base on that even more, there's kids that are 14, 15, 16 years old that their parents are paying for them to
Yeah.
get nose jobs.
Yeah.
Breast enhancement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wrong in so many ways.
That young of an age where they're still literally developing physically and mentally. You know what I mean? So it's,
Let a kid be a kid.
yeah. But I feel
You're
like,
going to be a grown-up the rest of your life.
but I feel like with the access that we have to media and the access that we have available at our fingertips with our
Yes.
phones, it's crazy because, you know, I made the decision to walk away from social media a couple of years ago. I have no social media on my phone, not Facebook, nothing.
No, me
You know
neither.
what I mean? So I don't, and now this is making me question, right? Because like I said, it wasn't till just recently, like a year ago. I think I was with you, Marie. I think we were out of town one weekend and I think we were leaving. It was, you were there too, Jules. It was for an Unbroken conference. It was for a conference that we went to. I was like, I don't feel like wearing makeup today. And you looked at me, you were like, then don't. You know what I mean? You're like, do you need me to spell it out for you? And I was like, so I was like, you know what? I'm not. But I wonder now, I mean, like there's no way of proving it, right? But now I wonder if the fact that I didn't have that constant thing in my face, because think about how often you see people scrolling, whether it's on the gram or whether it's on Facebook or, you know, whatever form of social, Snapchat with the filters and everything like that people have on there where it's not even really what they look like. If you don't have that influence on you every single day saying you have to look like this, you have to look like this, you have to look like this, you have to look like this.
Well, that is the question.
Right.
How could it not? You know, and that's exactly what Julie was talking about. How could it not influence you? It's like if something is repetitious over, even we've talked about this, even if it's a lie,
Mm-hmm.
if it's continually download it into your brain. At a point, you're going to think it's truth. And that's the object of advertisement. That's the object.
Yeah.
It's like going to Walmart, standing in line to pay for your groceries, and it's loaded with candy and magazines. We had magazines. And,
They're still there.
you know,
They're still there.
and all that kind of stuff, because you're just standing there. And the next thing you know, oh, let me just pick up a Reese's. Oh, let me just take it's advertisement. It's repetitious. If you say it enough, somebody's going to believe it.
And that's one of the things, like you said, Jules, is like how you're limiting that stuff with your daughter.
I feel it's essential.
Yeah, because if you don't, and they're scrolling, that's like, I see these clothes and this and that, and it's what influences and we can say that for all three of our generations.
Yes.
Like, obviously, like what was put, like you said, Marie, in the magazines, and for me and you, Jules, like what we saw on MTV or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I want to look like that.
And honestly, all I'm doing is really just limiting the exposure. I can't shield her completely.
can't.
She's got friends.
Right.
She's got different things that she sees. I'm just trying to mitigate the damage, and then meanwhile trying to be conscious about reinforcing things.
Right.
And gosh darn it, watching what I say, because,
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
So what's our takeaway from this conversation?
Well, I'd be interested to hear what our viewers have to say about that, our listeners.
Me
Yeah.
too.
So drop us a line, man. Just
let's
tell us
come
what
back
you
to
think.
this. 'Cause there's
There's
so
much
much more
more
we can unpack, and we said that in our last episode too. There's so much more we can unpack in this, and we would love to hear what you guys have to say, especially from the dudes in the house. What do you guys think about the beauty standards? Do you guys feel like you guys influence beauty standards on women? That's something I would love to hear
On your
about.
wife, on your girlfriend.
Yeah, daughters, you know what I mean? Like, what influence do you feel like? That's something I would love to hear back, but absolutely, we'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from the guys if they feel like it's catfishing when someone wears an excessive amount of makeup or lots of contouring, and what that's like from their view.
Yes.
Feel free to write us. We will take your emails. We'll read everything. It's podcast3generations@gmail.com. So it's podcast all spelled out, 3 all spelled out, generations plural @gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, because our
Absolutely.
conversations will continue by the feedbacks that we get back. We want to touch on issues that's important to you. And so reach out to us. We'll be looking for you.
Thank you so much again for tuning in to 3 Generations, and we hope you enjoyed the conversation and that it sparked some thoughts of your own. Remember, our goal is to foster understanding and respect, even when we don't always agree. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment or send us an email. If you enjoyed today's episode, your feedback help us grow and continue to bring engaging content. So just join us next time for more conversation, insights, and a little bit of fun as we explore new topics together. Until then, keep the conversation going, stay curious, and embrace the differences that make our world so vibrant. From Jess, Julia, and Marie, thanks for listening to 3 Generations, and see you next time.